What is happening?
What's up?
Been a minute, man. I said let's get Durb, because I know of the things, just kind of what you guys are doing, and knowing where the real struggles are at and what's happening. And hard is hard. I don't care what anybody says. And you can even look at try to sugarcoat production numbers. You can look at even like what the top teams, like, it ain't easy. There ain't nothing easy right now. So
nothing's easy right now, that's for sure.
Get Durb. So been a minute, man. She pulled it up and she's like, Durb and DJ have been on the other conversations quite a bit, but they haven't been on Expert Mentors. And I said, how long? I said, yes, get him back in.
How long's it been?
About 3 years.
Oh, been a minute then. Yeah.
Been a minute. So welcome back.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, for all of the new honey badgers out there in the honey badger nation that haven't had an opportunity to connect with you, give a little down and dirty, man, a little bit of backstory here.
Yeah. Man, how long has it been? So we came, you and I started coaching together 2019.
19. Right? Yeah.
19. Yeah. We had a small team then, probably only 4 or 5. Independent. Yeah, we started coaching together. We ultimately decided to make the move over to EXP January 2020.
Yeah.
Right before COVID. I think we moved to EXP with seven people.
Yeah. Wild. Yeah, it was right before COVID. We were all game planning. We're going to do launch. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then
the world shut down for a little bit. So we moved over to EXP 2020. Obviously my business partner DJ and I, we've been running a team here in the Pittsburgh Metro Market ever since then, and I got about 31 agents on the team. We've grown a good bit over the last year or so here. We did about 240-ish transactions last year. We'll be close to 300, maybe a little bit more. Probably be a little bit. We wanted to hit that 350 number. It's just been a tough market, quite frankly. So we'll probably be a little bit short on that. But yeah. I was looking at our projections a couple of days ago. We're pacing to be 300, probably 325 if we have a good second half of the year.
Yeah, and people hear 31 agents, and I think the big thing that I've come to the realization, just because I know where our sweet spot was to be profitable in our market, maintain that 12 to 15% market share was around that 13, right under 300 to 275 to 290 range, but we did it with 10 agents. So, and then also on the other end of the spectrum where we've had 15 to 22, and I think in love your take on this. I think 10 less, you can stay super ninja, very highly productive. I think when you get up to that second count, I think that's where you got to drop down to 8 to 10, per agent kind of production kind of measurement, right? So,
yep.
When I think everybody's fully ramped at 31, I think you could base it around 310, right? That's kind of that 10 per agent count.
Yeah, I think so. We've brought on almost 10 this year, lost 3 or 4, right? And I think this is now a market where turnover's gonna happen. It just is. And so I think when you're in that 10 agent count range, you're probably the most highly productive, especially per agent productivity. You're also at a high risk of being half of that
somebody
in an evening.
Yeah.
And you're also from what I've seen over the last 4 years, you're at a a pretty much a guarantee of inconsistency, because it a lot of times, and I heard somebody tell me a little while back where all of your agents are not going to be productive at the same time.
Right.
They're going to get really busy, and then they're going to get really slow, and then they're going to eventually get really busy again. And when you have what we've seen over the last 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years of doing this, is an extreme level of inconsistency. You would have a month where you would do 20 deals, and then you would have a month where you do 12, and then a month where you do 18, and then a month where you do 10. And so the inconsistency, because it's never going to time itself perfectly. And
Right.
so when you start getting into a higher agent count, it's not that everybody is going to be highly productive at that agent count. If they are, great. That's obviously the goal. We want them all to be, but it's more to hedge against, okay, these top people have had a couple of huge months. They're on the downcline now. When you have some other people that start to step up and step into those roles, you start to create a little bit more consistency in unit count, and you can actually run a business around that, as opposed to when you're so inconsistent. It's really hard to buy lead flow. It's really hard to guarantee a salary. It's really hard to do certain things that you want to do to grow the business, because you have a level of inconsistency in income and unit count and transactions and volume.
That's a great point too, right? I think that's a decision as a team lead, looking to, what do I do? Do I stay small? Do I stay, lean and mean? I'm in production, or do I have to go big? And my take on it is that, because I think where you're at, you're kind of in a no man's land, right? To where you got to go through that transition to get to that point to where you have enough headcount to where it's not dependent upon your production or DJ's production, to where you can actually step back and be the true CEO operator of the business without being dependent upon your production.
Right.
But, staying lean and mean and small. But you are right, man. The big 2x4, the big threat is, you get that phone call that, hey man, peace out. We're taking our talent across the street. And then you're like, wow, right? There goes 30, 40, units per year. Just do the math. That just gone. So I think it's super, super key. The only other thing too, Derb, that I've seen is that step off into something else, right? They step off into other ventures.
You're seeing that right now. I mean, and you're going to continue to see that in a market like we're in right now, that it's difficult. It's hard. It's a grind. I mean, you're going to see that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's just natural. And I think too, like you talk about when you're small and you're the rainmaker and you're in production, and you got you might have an admin or an assistant, and then you've got maybe a buyer agent, or you've got one or two on the team. You're as highly profitable as you're ever going to be.
Agreed.
Right. That is the business model. You'll make more money that way than any other probably business model, until you ultimately hit a level of production, which is what we're trying to get to, that does feed that consistently. And then you start to add additional, affiliate things like that. Like, that'll eventually put you over that hump. But as you go through that transition of, okay, now I'm going to grow and I get to 10, most of the deals that you're giving, or they're getting, are coming from you. So now you're just giving away 50% of the income that you typically would have earned, with hopes that they'll bring a certain amount back to make up for that. And it never quite works out. And so then you kind of start to, and I feel like your profitability just continues to slide to a point that it starts coming back up, and it scales back up. Otherwise, you just get less and less profitable every year as you grow.
So how do you lock into kind of that set profit target to where you can maintain growth without, obviously, in a down market, there's obviously the variables. There's only a handful of metrics within any business that if you just focus on, right, like leads and conversion, average sales price, we're in an, you know, obviously we're in a kind of where you've shifted. You're more in an agent count, right? Than you are an actual buyer seller count. You actually kind of got a little bit of both, right? Because you're kind of in production, but you're also getting agents. So agents, you know, one time, but how many can you get them to kind of do? So you can increase their production a little bit. You can increase, you know, pay attention to where your fixed costs are, right?
Yep.
To really maximize that that profitability. So how do you maintain that? How do you lock that into any, you know, especially in a tough down market?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we've concentrated on a lot over the last year and a half is growing volume wise is almost I don't want to say the easy thing to do because it's hard, right? Like it's hard to do hundreds and hundreds of transactions, but it is easy to an extent that if you could just put more money to it, you'll do more transactions. Like I could go add 10 grand in Zillow spend or realtor.com spend tomorrow. But if that's not even hitting the bottom line, then I don't see the value in it, right? And so the primary things that we're looking at is, yeah, obviously traffic conversion, like, but we're looking at cost of goods sold primarily.
Yeah.
How much money per deal are we paying out? We're looking at fixed expenses. How do we cut everything that we are not using? Like if it hasn't been using, like it needs cut. So I'm looking at expenses every month. Like we've reduced our expenses over the last year pretty dramatically. We're looking at can we add a certain dollar amount per transaction? How do we increase the dollar that comes in off of a transaction? Because those are the things that really move the profit percentage at the bottom.
1,000%.
Revenue doesn't.
Those are
because if your expenses are off and your cost of goods sold's off, your revenue just goes up, but your profit doesn't.
Right. And I think the thing too, kind of where you're at, and this is what I was kind of alluding to. So you hit 5 key points. So I want to kind of come back to the 6th one. So you talked about leads, right? Hey, we can increase leads. Well, then if we increase leads, then the conversion constraint, or the, you know, operating in theory of constraints, the next constraint then is conversion. So you got to focus on that, but that takes a little bit for the revenue. So that's cash conversion cycle, right? For that to really play out. So that was the 2 that you talked about. You talked about another one, which was gross margin, right? Being able to keep more of the dollars. And I think that's where, you know, we were chatting, you know, before we came online, you know, just there's so many people out there that still don't understand that, right? They're, hey, I'm on an 80-20 split, but I'm not ever going to cap. Like what? Like, you know, how do you impact gross margin to keep more of the dollars of the revenue that you generate to be able to keep more of those? So thinking as a team lead, how do you do that? How do you provide enough value to where an agent is okay trading, you know, 40, 50, 60 cents of every dollar back to you, back to the team, back to the organization? You talked about fixed overhead, right? Just really being real critical. I think to the point of managing every line item that really comes down and really scrutinizing everything. Am I getting a return on this? Is this useful? Is this helping us get to the result? And then you hit, you know, average sale, right? So average sales price, transaction fees, things that we can increase that. So that's 5. There's only one other one, and that is the average transactions per customer. And so you look at typical real estate, and it's like, okay, well, can I get them to make an investment, right? Can they, if I could get, you know, 1 out of 10 to make an investment purchase per year, what does that look like? But where you've kind of shifted to where you're at, going from 7 to 31 on our way to 50 and beyond, is how do you increase agent productivity within that large of an organization? So if your average count is 5 per, well, what if we increase that by 10% and it goes up, right? That's where I don't think most people don't understand when you just have small changes. So if you have like, it's almost like 2% change in leads, conversion, average sales price, gross margin, fixed overhead, and average transaction doubles your profitability, just 2% focus on ever though. It's not 2%, it's exponential. It doubles the profit number by controlling those variables.
Most people never even look at it though.
They don't even know to look at it. They're not problem aware, right? It's like a fish, right? Fish doesn't know anything above the water line. They just know everything below the water. They don't know there's a whole nother world above water. So I think becoming problem aware is really, really key, especially for a lot of people that want to grow. But one of the things that I really wanted to, because I think you guys are doing an exceptional job at this, and I know your alignment with Place, and part of the reason and the decision to go with Place was the impact, the factor of this one. And that is, how do we get agents in to where we can maintain the gross margin, but get the type of agents in that fits within our business model, but gets them in and gets them productive, right? And right now, man, like training is critical. So talk a little bit about that, like what you guys are doing, like what does a month, a week, a day look like from, helping increase that average transaction per agent count?
Yeah, I think really when you're growing at the pace that we're growing at, and like you really only have like two choices. Is you either have to buy more real bottom of the funnel leads, which makes you less and less profitable, or you have to figure out a way to work your database, have lead flow, and have your agents trained properly and more highly skilled, which takes more time and is probably a little bit harder at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But will build a foundation for success moving forward. So it probably takes longer, right? So if you're at 30 agents now, or if I add, let's say I add 10 agents in the first half of this year, I'm probably not going to see like high results off of that for another 6 to 12 months. Like there's just a lag when it comes to that stuff. So for us, it was, well, in order to grow like we want to grow and not be heavily reliant on a big Zillow spend or a flex or something where you're giving away a high percentage of income, it was, we have to really dive in deep with training on skills, script training, who we're calling, monitoring the database, learning the database properly. Like, so that was the direction that we decided to go. And that's where Place became the fit, because it helps us with a new agent launch, 12-week program from the time a new agent comes on. We have a system, we have a pre-onboarding, we have it's a 12-week course where somebody's teaching it. It's live, it's recorded, there's scripting, there's role play, there's skills, there's phone calls that got to be made, there's sphere that need to be uploaded. And it allows us the ability to play a part in that, but not have all of that heavy lifting on my plate. Quite frankly, like that was originally, when you talk about what was the thing that was holding us back from growth, me primarily, because we could recruit the person, but the training and the skill building was lacking highly, right?
Well, because in the reason is because of just a lack of time,
right?
Because the business, to maintain profitability and you get paid, you still got to go sell houses.
Right.
And so the time allocation, right? And I remember when we were in, and I don't want to make this a pitch for Place, because it's all about functions and activities. And so it's like, okay, if we really want to grow, if we don't do the deal with Place, then we got to go make a 6-figure hire.
Yep.
And you're like, I don't want to do that. I was like, I wouldn't want to do that either, because what you're going to try to go find is a fucking unicorn. Good luck, right? And so I think there's those things that people just don't think through, and it's about functions and activities. And the reason that you could recruit the heck out of people, but you couldn't get them to stick or get them going, is you just didn't have time.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, like you just said, right? Like, so what do most teams look like? Especially us too. Like, we're in a lower price point market. Let's be real. Like, if I'm doing 240 transactions and I got a million average price point, I have a lot more room to play with.
Yes.
than I do.
You can be rewarded
Right?
for bad behavior.
I sure can, right? Like, yeah. So are there things that we do differently than somebody else would? Absolutely, because they have a little bit more room in that dollar
Bigger
figure
margins.
to make mistakes, and the margin can be lower, and it's still worth it. It's not necessarily in a market like this where, Pittsburgh's 250 average price point,
Yeah.
right? So for us, it was like, yeah, um, as a team leader, right? Like you got to recruit, and then you got to train, and then you got to help with production, and then you got to bring them along, and then you got to try to get them to and then by the time you go through that whole process, and then somebody leaves 6 months in and they never do a deal, it's like, I mean, how many times am I going to bang my head against the wall and do this? Like, and then you just start not recruiting anymore unless like it's the perfect person, because you've just know of all the pain that's coming. So now I'm looking at it like, okay, well, in order to grow and grow to the scale that we need to grow, I need to be able to recruit at a high level. But if I'm going to be responsible for training, onboarding, getting them in the EXP's world, and I'm going to get them in a place, like I'm going to start doing all of these things, then I don't want to do it. Right? Like, unless I can hire somebody. And now if I hire somebody, I have to be even more productive. I might have to go back in and sell a little bit more now to pay for the
Right.
person that you bring in. So it's like, no matter how you look at it, there isn't an easy option or an easy route. But that's ultimately what continued to bring us back to place, because it's like, okay, I can recruit at will. We can grow to the numbers that we need to grow at. I have additional support, resources, training, scripting, a library of certification courses. Like, I have somebody handling my accounting. I have somebody picking apart my books. I have a business advisor. I have a financial person. Like, I have all of these resources that are helping us, and it's still not it's still not easy, but it allows us to get to a point now where we can scale and see the growth. And do we bring some people on and lose them because onboarding is a little bit too challenging? Yes, but we probably would have lost that person before. And so now we're looking at it like, okay, there's a little bit of a weeding out process now, but we need to bring a few more in than we had previously expected. But now we can bring them into this world, and the systems are in place, the processes are in place. There's 300 plus of the top teams around the country that are using the same systems, processes, onboarding, training, new agent launch, the power ups we do weekly. Like, we're following the same model that all of these other people are following, and so it makes it easier to scale, because it's just, here's the path, plug in, play, do what we do it how we do it. Like, and so at least it like gives you a kind of a done for you, just come in, plug your team into it. There's a learning curve. But once you kind of get in and you start rolling with it, it's like you can see where the future of this is going to go. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And it's all the best practices, and it's all the things. And just, we were chatting before came on as well about, who is this ideally for, and definitely playing both sides of the fence, I think is key. Yet to be able to do all of those things, you almost can't be in production. That's why, you've got to have other revenue streams to be able to fund, because you're right. I mean, you get paid for what you do, and you said it right. There is that if you really want to make a lot of money in real estate, stay in production, focus on listings, become highly leveraged, keep as much of the dollar as you possibly can, and, take those dollars, reinvest them back into long-term wealth building opportunities. There is nothing in this business that pays you more than that. And so I think you have to understand, and the problem too, Derb, is that, most people build this lifestyle and then they want to try to back out of production and still pay themselves what they were paying when they were, slinging 50, 60 houses personally per year. and compensation has to change. And they missed that. That was the lesson we learned, right? We learned that lesson. We kept trying to fund somebody that wasn't in production and off doing something else, wasn't even in the marketplace. And it was just robbing us of the oxygen, of the resource of cash inside of the business, and making it dang near impossible to function.
I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day. They run a big team, and they're doing a good amount of transactions on the same level that we are. Team leaders, the majority of those transactions, they're all lead based. It's all Zillow spend, Realtor.com spend. There's no training. There's an admin process in your transactions, and you're on the dialer. And if you don't pick up calls, you don't get leads, and that's it. And that's the way it runs. Now, if that person wants to ever step back or slow down their production, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Because they're basically paying for the transactions, but they're not getting any profit out of it. They're not making any money off of the transactions that anybody else is doing, because they're counting their own production and their profitability. Well, you can't. As soon as you step out, there's no profit left, because you were the only profit. And essentially what you would have made on your own, doing this on your own, is now paying for lead flow for other people that you ultimately aren't getting back. Like, it's a never ending cycle when you start getting, like, when you're in that, like, just chase lead game. And especially when the leader is in production, because there is no support in place behind it. It's just like, eventually it's a house of cards that are going to fall.
100%. So let's give some step-by-step actions here, right? So, obviously, one, I think, play defense real quick, and then, the best defense is always the best offense. So let's clean up a little bit, and then, all in on the offensive side. So obviously, one, clean up, kind of what's going out, right? Understand kind of what that, monthly, weekly, daily, yearly break even really is, right? Like, what is break even, and how can we make sure that everything for us to be break even is useful in the business? And then what's that, hey, let's set this profit target, and then, what is required for that to be true. So defense is set. Now what?
Just in terms of
What's
production,
the next step, right? Like somebody kind of trying to clean the business up a little bit here. They know they're fighting just to
yeah.
So after they get their finance and get some visibility and clean up and stop all of the reoccurring charges that they don't even know what is going to. What is next after defense is played? They need to play now. Now it's shift to offense. Like, what's the next step?
The next step would be, I guess it would depend on what team size you're looking at, right? But where's my business coming from right now? I've been looking at this highly in the last 3 months. Okay. 50-60% still coming from Sphere and SOI. We have dramatically increased the amount of transactions that we're doing from expireds and FSBOs, right? So our primary focus right now is a listing based business again.
Okay.
Right. We chased buy side for a while. When we look at our transaction count last year, our buy side transactions went up, our listing side went down. So in order for me to get to 300, 325, our listings had to go up. So one of the primary focuses for us is, all right, listings are more profitable. We can make them with outbound prospecting. So how do we increase listing activity? How do we take back control of inventory? From that inventory, now I can run ads and I can get low cost leads off of our listings. Okay. And so now I can feed buyer leads, which has been working quite well. And now I have more leads for agents to call that are based on the listings that we've already provided. So for us, step one was build inventory. right? How do we go back to, because we built this, we were a listing based business. We got away from that with the way that the market shifted and things like that. But like getting back to the basics. Okay, we need to get back up to carrying 40, 50 listings again. So listing based business, more profitable. We need more lead flow. We need people to call. We need to build that pipeline up, and having a larger database, and now we have a high concentration on database turnover, right? So we know the numbers that
explain that for everybody that doesn't.
Okay, so if I have, let's say I have 10,000 people in my database.
Okay.
Right. I want to turn that over every 3 months. Let's say I have 9,000. I need to turn that database over every 90 days, which means we've got to make at least 3,000 phone calls to our database per month to leads that have not been talked to in the last 90 days, in addition to new leads and things like that, because we know the numbers, right? Like, so if I've got 10,000 people in my database and home ownership rate in Pittsburgh, 72%, now 7,200 are homeowners in that database, and they're going to turn over every 10 years. I've got 720 transactions in my database, right? So why am I buying new leads when I know that they're already there?
Yeah.
And so now my database grows to 20,000. So now I'm at 1,400 potential transactions sitting in my database. And so putting an emphasis on that, and now trying to grow your business from a database standpoint with lower cost leads over time will result in more transactions. And then for us, like if we do the first two right, we'll generate buyer leads. The listing business will lead, which we're really good at. And then we have database turnover. I can leave any of the reliance on a realtor or Zillow spend and save myself hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in a flex model or a Zillow model. And like we still have a realtor.com spend right now, and it's been profitable, but I'm watching it every month. Like, where are the numbers at? Like, you have to, because it can continue to inch up. They raise the rates every year, every month. So it's like, well, can I get rid of this zip code, add this? Like, so we're still playing around with that right now. And at the point it's not profitable, it's just at the point we'll cut it. I'd rather do less transactions and be more profitable on those transactions than do more transactions and reduce our profitability, because it just sucks. Like, it sucks time. It sucks resources. It sucks people. Like, when you go to 300, like, yeah, do you need to add somebody else? Potentially. So if you're doing business with a zero net, it doesn't make any sense to me, at least now, like there's no reason to do it just to get on a list somewhere. Right?
Yeah. At what point, are you good with kind of backing off of that, for an agent that might not have as much in their database, right? Like what are some key strategies to focus on, right now to be able to keep adding new people into the database?
I think it would be the same thing. If I were going to start all over again, it would be the same thing that I did when I started in 2013. I'd do expireds and FSBOs, and I would run Facebook ads, maybe Google pay-per-click. I'd rather have 50 leads than one or two realtor.com that I can't afford, right? Like realtor.com leads right now are $100 a lead.
Right.
Facebook are $2.50 a lead.
Right.
So
yeah. And
it's like, I'd rather have more people. We've got more people to call. We have more people to build on. We've got more people to drip on. We've got more people to market to, and we've got more people to nurture over time. And if we do that correctly, it'll turn over into business.
1,000%, man. We just need more people.
Right. And if you're on your own, I mean, you already have a database, whether or not you've built a lead or not. You've got Sphere. You've got people that know you, like you, trust you. You've got that, like you have 200 Sphere. Do you have 200 people in your market, 300 people in your market? The numbers still work. Yeah. Right. You have 300 people that know you, like you, trust you, that are in your town. and, take that, to 200 home ownership rate and take that 10 years, you got 20 people that are going to buy or sell this year, not including anybody that could potentially refer you.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just math when it comes to people in database, like, because eventually that's what this all comes down to. There's going to be a point in time where the Zillows of the world are competing for our sphere.
Yeah.
So either we are working with our friends and family, or somebody else is taking them
Right.
from our database or from our potential business. I feel like is the way that everything is moving.
It really is. And I think it's just, stay top of mind. That's one of the biggest things too. And I think it's understanding, especially, as we kind of move over to the traffic and demand and side of things. Cause for most agents, their biggest bottleneck is they don't have enough opportunities, or they don't know how to go get those opportunities. So, like you said, coming into a new place, I mean, it's real, it's like pull up your contact record and how many people inside your contact record. I mean, just pull up on your phone. I mean, how many contact records do you have? And everybody has, 500 to 1,000 or more in there. But out of that, how many of those live in your market? And then it's the same thing. How many email addresses do you have in your email? And how many of those people live in your market? How many people on social media that you're actually, kind of interacting with and engaging with that are in your market, right? So you've got those opportunities right there, first and foremost. But I think it's so key, understand from the marketing side of things, it's you got to have awareness. People got to be aware of what you do. And then, what's the offer that you're throwing out there? Like you said, I'm so pro motivated seller. It's like we start there, motivated sellers first. And so like, what's the offer? What's the hook to get their consideration? Because we're moving them down the funnel, right? It's like you said, you can buy bottom of funnel opportunities, but most people, can't afford to make that investment to make it work. They're just buying to replenish the money that they just spent. There's no profit. There's no margin to be able to reinvest back to continue to grow. And so it's getting that hook out there from a motivated, to find the motivated sellers to get a consideration, to get to a conversation to where you can help them make a decision, right? That's moving them down the funnel that they have to understand, but it has to be awareness. And there's so many right now, it's organic social is the awareness key. And so it's like, I mean, you guys do a great job. And I think that's the other beautiful thing with the larger team is you just get larger amplification of awareness of just helping everybody help each other continue to make awareness. And then it's easier when we have that awareness, we can make offers to get consideration to, should I do something or not? And then it's easier when we're reaching out and having conversations, because just like even with you guys, I mean, Pittsburgh's not that big. And so for you guys to be able to reach out and talk to homeowners, there's a good chance that they've heard of you guys in some capacity, right? And especially the bigger that you get, the easier that's going to be.
Yeah. And I think too, I agree with everything you're saying. I think a mistake a lot of newer agents make, though, is you play the social game, but you don't do anything to back that up, right? Like, so, and by that, I mean, if I make a lead call today, right? Like, if somebody calls me today and I don't know who it is, I might look at the number. I might Google the number. If I talk to somebody, they call me, what's the first thing I do? I look them up. What's the first thing when a recruit comes in? What's the first thing when a lead comes in? What's the first thing that somebody does? They're going to go online and they're going to look you up. However, if I never make that call, if I don't reach out and make any connections, and I'm simply rely on social, it's going to take me a lot longer. So it's there to amplify activities,
awareness,
in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so now that helps move it down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were, if you were to start out and you want a motivated seller right now, go pull the list of every FSBO in your market on Zillow. Free phone numbers there, right? Like there's business there. Like you don't have money to spend on leads. You can do open houses, walk the neighborhood first. You just had a
1,000%.
client do like
Listen to that.
there are so many free resources right now. There's so many, like everybody's a lead. Everybody knows
Yeah.
somebody selling real estate.
I love what
So
you just said right there, man, because like it's just being, resourceful. Where can I, exhaust effort, put some sweat in?
for
And
sure.
I think that the thing too is like, if you don't have any listings, man, reach out to these other agents that have listings in the areas that you want to kind of have opportunities for.
Yeah.
They will let you hold them open. I promise you, they will let you hold these properties open, because the longer that they set, the sellers are getting kind of frustrated. Most listing agents don't know what to do. And so to appease the seller, the seller's like, well, hold it open, hold it open, hold it open. Doesn't always work. However, if you do it right and you get an agent and you're like aggressive and you come in and you start door knocking around, letting them know it's going to open, preview, come in. Hey, we're going to raffle to the sellers. Like there's so many creative ways that you can do it through effort. And I think that's just where a lot of agents have to get into. I will say though, if I was going to spend any money, I would go buy motivated seller data. And that's who I would be calling. I would go make $300, $400, $500, $600 investment max and get all of the likely to move seller data in my area. And I would just start calling them. That's what I would, if I was going to spend any money starting out, it's motivated seller data that I would be calling. So that's that cold outreach, right? So for sell by owners, expireds there, that motivated seller, open houses, your sphere, hardcore, social to keep awareness. And that's, just lock in for that. And you know what's crazy, man? I think about this every time I think about open houses. Mike had this cat that first year in the business, and Mike gave him the open house on steroids program. Dude sold 82 houses in his first year just doing open houses every week. He did 50 open houses, sold 82 houses in his first 12 months.
I believe it.
That's it. That's all he did. He just did open house on steroids. He worked, did the prep work, signs out on, Saturday, open house, follow up on Sunday, and follow up on Monday, working clients, repeat, do it again.
Yep. Honestly, like I always say this, but you can do 25 to 50 transactions a year with one lead source and just get really freaking good at it, and only do that. Only do open houses. Only call FSBOs. Screw everything else. Only run $250 worth of Facebook ads every month, generate 100 ads. Of those 100 people, we know that the home ownership rate's 70%. 7 out of 10 are probably a home seller. Yeah. Right. Some of them may not be, like, but if that's all I did every day and I just went super deep with that, I would have all the business I need. But we try to do too many things, and we try to do like a little bit of just blood, sweat, and tears into one lead source will change your whole business. Yeah. We just don't ever do, like, nobody ever does it. Yeah. Like they really don't, or they won't stay at it long enough to allow it time to give the result. Because this is real estate. Everything's a 3, 6, 9 month turn time. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're doing today, you have to stick with it long enough in order to reap the reward of the effort. Yep. Most people will quit too early, and then they never follow up with the things that they've built, and then they don't get any results after it. And then you go to the next one. Okay, well, that didn't work. I gotta go try this now. Yeah. And then you try that a few times, and then you ultimately leave. But you never like, it's just that's the hardest part about real estate. You got salespeople that come into the industry from other positions, other jobs, okay, well, I used to sell cars. Well, Somebody might roll up on the lot and I would sell them a car and I'd get paid in an hour. Like, this isn't necessarily the same thing. Like, it's never going to be, unless, you get really good at FSBOs or subway owners or something like that, which is why we like the listing side of things, where you can go out and you can set an appointment and you can lock it up and you can have it listed in a week and you can get paid in 30 days potentially. But there's a longer return on time, and most people give up before they allow the time to.
I think it's one of the biggest things as real estate agents, understanding that, it's delayed gratification to the bank account. You need to understand, if you need that, that hit every day, then focus on the things within your control and get that win.
Yep.
And then those wins, compound over time to build confidence and to build momentum. But, understanding delayed gratification, but also everything you do has a cash conversion cycle. And I think if more people understood that, then they would be a little more intentional with their time and their efforts and their activities and what they choose to do. And I do believe, really try to align it to kind of, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like it. Nobody likes really doing anything. So it's just like, okay, what that's not going to completely drain me of energy. And I think, taking DISC assessments, but also I think Patrick Lencioni's 6 Working Genius, and understand kind of what keeps you energized and then also what depletes your energy. But same thing with that, right? Like if you love being around people, you're a people person like that, like hell yes, network like crazy, open houses like crazy, anything that you can do to just get face to face with people. That's where you got to go all in. And I'm with you, growth through subtraction, stay away from the shiny object syndrome. Quit trying to do too much, because that's where people get in trouble, right? We get choked out instead of starving to death.
Right. 100%. And even with us, like, I feel like that sometimes I was just having a conversation with Jen, like, even with new agents, sometimes I feel like we're just throwing too much at them.
Yeah. Yeah. How can we get this?
Find a lane. Let's find a lane right now that we can run with, and then build in the other pieces of it.
That's a great point what you just said. And that's the carryover from, people only buy results. And so what is the minimum viable activity to get the result? Because everything else is just about the experience, which is not a bad thing, but too many agents focus on the experience instead of focusing on the minimum required activity to get the result. And if they would just do more of that, then they can add in the experience. So it's just a little bit of that right things, right order. That's a great point with what you said. It's like, man, we're just trying to do too much. Let's dumb this down. Like, if they would only do 2 things, what were the 2 things to get the results that they want?
Yeah. I would say contacts per day.
Yeah.
You want to just leave it at 1? Have 10 real estate related conversations a day.
And we added a little caveat to this, Derb, and just think about this. The conversation has to lead to an offer. You got to make them an offer during that conversation, and an offer to, can I send you something? An offer, can we get face to face? An offer to, hey, come and buy an open house this weekend. Hey, I got a new market update that I would like to send you. So the conversations are important, but the conversation has to have an offer to do something. And I think back to your point with social, a lot of agents do a lot of social, but they don't tell people what to do. They don't give them any call to action. They don't make any offers.
I think there's 2 things to go along with that, right? Especially right now. A lot of times, and I see this all the time. I mean, obviously we run a team. We have a ton of leads that come in. I listen to conversations. We hear what people say. We don't go deep enough with our questions. We don't go 2 questions deeper. We don't ask for an appointment. A lot of times it's because we don't know how to ask for that appointment. I know how to ask for an appointment when I call an expired listing.
Yeah.
Right. But most agents don't know how to ask for an appointment if there's no home to show. Mm. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to set them up. Is it okay if I set you up on a listing alert? Yes, cool. Go ahead. Set them up on a listing alert. They're never going to look at it. The next call, this is now going to be the first person to get in front of them and get a buyer agency agreement signed wins. That's what this is going to be, because you're going to follow up with that person. They're going to say, sorry, I can't work with you. I ended up signing something with somebody else. They came out and met us at our house and talked about our real estate related need, because that's the market we're in now with the buyer agency change. And so we need to get really freaking good at making an offer, and we need to get really good at making and trying to set appointments with buyer leads, quote unquote buyer leads. Like, a lot of them are sellers too, but we need to get good at that, and we need to start doing that, or somebody else is going to come take them right out from under us.
Amen. Amen. Durbin, appreciate you, brother. I know you guys are all doing the right thing, and it's just time and temperature, right? It's just time and temperature. Just staying consistent, staying disciplined, right? Discipline is when you don't want to do it, you still do it anyways because it's the right thing to do. You guys are doing a lot of that. Great people, great culture, and just time and temperature.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you guys. And man, make sure you guys connect with Matt, DJ, the entire MAD team in Pittsburgh, PA. If you got questions around kind of what they're doing, how they're growing, questions about, how they're really leaning in and leveraging place, connect. If you want Durb's information, hit me up. I'll connect you guys. If not, reach out to him directly, and we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate you, brother.
That's good. Thanks, man.